Hello everyone, let's continue the Xenos topic in Warhammer 40,000 from Joytoy. And in this video we'll talk about one of the most important figures in the history of the Tau faction, Commander Shadowsun. At the same time, this is the first representative of Tau in my collection, and I didn't immediately understand how non-standard and unusual this figure is for Joytoy, even by the standards of all released Space Marines, Orcs and Tyrannies taken together. The set includes a main dual weapon, an additional weapon, a replaceable head, 3 additional hands, and a stand for flying poses. This figure is a re-released version of 2025. Originally it was released in 2023. Shadowsun is the most unusual figure I've ever seen, and I'm sure that even Angron and the Imperial Knight won't surprise you this much in terms of visuals and articulation. The thing is that she wears a full-fledged exoskeleton called XV22. We'll talk about it later, but for now let's look at the gorgeous detailing. Because it has everything. Drawings, technical elements, dust effects, and everything looks just great on this white main color. By the way, a rather interesting observation that for some reason most reviewers don't talk about. The Tau have hooves instead of feet, so the armor suit also uses hooves. I also will return to this a bit later. A ribbon is attached to the left thigh, which is also a holster for a pistol. I want to pay special attention to the back of the armor. This is a rare case when you clearly see a bolt in the design of the Joytoy figure, and above it there is a connector for the stand, which for some reason in this case is supplied without a clamp for a bracket, and this place is just intended for the pin on which it usually attached. Such a strange decision. Like most of female warriors in Warhammer, Shadowsun has a very narrow waist, and here we can see that she is minimally protected by armor. On the chest there is a black disc, inside of which there is a circle with a stripe. This is the emblem of the Tau Empire. The arms look as robotic and angular as possible. There are small shoulder pads and very massive armor on the forearms. On the back there is a very massive structure with 3 small wings. This is clearly an analog for a jetpack, using advanced Tau technology. It has many technical elements and various details, like these black squares that look like exhaust pipes, a grill at the top, and on the sides there are 2 additional manipulators for installing weapons. The helmet, although it's very detailed and has 3 asymmetrical blue lenses, does not look very interesting to me, and I prefer to use a head, thanks to which we can see that Tau have blue skin, white eyes, no noses in the usual sense, and instead of a nose in this part of the face and on the forehead there is a gap. At the same time, Tau's hair is quite ordinary, and I really like how this large braid is made. Of course, there are also some tactical headphones on here, as well as a device specific for Tau similar to the antenna is attached to the right ear. I'm sure that it is filled with many high-tech functions. The set includes 3 replaceable hands. These are 2 fists and 1 right gripper. There is no special sense in them. The pre-installed ones are great for constant use. As an additional weapon, there is a pulse pistol. Tau have their own types of weapons, not usually similar to the weapons of other factions and races. It looks very stylish, modern, and it's small. It can be stored in the holster on the left hip. The main weapon of the suit is a pair of huge fusion blasters, the visual of which remind you more of a Star Wars than Warhammer. This is some kind of an analog of Imperium's melta weapon. There are 2 containers at the back, an additional block is installed on the side. From the front side you can see that the weapon glows blue and has 2 barrels. There are 2 of these things in the set and they are not symmetrical. And obviously they are very massive, so they are attached to the additional shoulders of the suit itself, just installed on the backpack. Thus it turns out that the figure has 6 full-fledged movable limbs. Here we move on to the articulation, and as I have already told, this is the most unusual figure from Joytoy that I have ever held in my hands. It can be compared to Dreadnoughts because almost all of its joints are ratchets and more rigid joints. In the hooves there are turns and a tight ratchet instead of the usual ball joints in such figures. The same thing in the knees. Instead of a double joint there is a double ratchet. In the hips there are massive hinges that can rotate the thigh itself. It can be moved to the side on the ratchet and brought forward like a normal joint. But at the same time both legs are fixed on one axis and can move together relative to the body. There are standard ball joints in the waist and chest areas. The shoulders are represented by joints with a ratchet and movable shoulder pads. The elbows are essentially just gears that can be bent in any direction, because there are no elbow pads. The hands are not very mobile due to the shape of the forearm armor, but they can for example bend inward, and this is actually enough. The back pair of arms is almost exactly the same. They have shoulder pads, joints for bending, and their only difference is that they have huge guns instead of hands. The backpack flaps can be raised and lowered. The head is on a standard double ball hinge. The antenna part can be lowered, and even can be removed, but for some reason you cannot remove the backpack and its entire massive structure behind the back. This brings us to a small problem with the display and posing, because balance is very important for the figure. Hence the forward lean, but surprisingly, with such a massive design, it's not even noticeable. Now a few words about the Tau and Shadowsun. Tau are one of the main factions in 40k. They entered the war later than everyone else, and they are the youngest species in the galaxy, which makes them the complete opposite of the Necrons in terms of the history, but in general they're the complete opposite of the Imperium in terms of the organization and ideology, and the complete opposite of the Elder in terms of presence and the warp, and psychic potential. Such is the set of unique features of the Tau. Funny that if I was told that there are blue-skinned space creatures with hoofs, I would immediately think of the Joytoy from Warcraft. As for the hero of the review, Shadowsun is not a name, but rather a call sign. The wiki says that her name is Shasosha Sarah, and she is the representative of the Tau Fire Caste, which is a warrior. But besides this, she is literally the most legendary and coolest warrior of her faction, the most effective combat commander. I think in terms of status and career path, she can be compared to Dante, since she is also an incredibly ancient woman for her species. And the Tau are not distinguished by longevity and live less than humans. So she, as the best warrior of the Tau Empire, is simply frozen in stasis and awakened for especially important military campaigns, something similar Space Marines do with their dreadnoughts. Her armor is called the XV-22. This is an advanced experimental Tau stealth suit, which exists in the single copy only for Shadowsun. It is equipped with 2 fusion blasters and protected by a powerful MV-52 model drone shield. A drone shield. I'm not a big expert in the war game, but I see these little guys on the miniature. I personally don't understand if they were not included by Joytoy, or if the drone equipment means the non-removable backpack, which to me was responsible for the flight. In principle, judging by this picture, the drones and the backpack look the same, so it's not even a backpack. As for posing, I won't hide it, there's a problem with it. The small surface area of the hoofs, heavy guns on the back, you clearly need a display stand here, if you want to make at least some kind of combat stance with a directional weapon. And you also need to get used to using it and learn a little to put out for arms, legs, flaps, the position of the chest at the same time, so that it was normal. Personally for myself, I just came up with an option with guns raised above the head. It's easier to walk with them like that. But still, in general, the range of poses created by the stand is not that great. There is no close combat and everything rests on aiming. The stand solution itself doesn't seem to be the best. It certainly works, but I even thought about the fact that Joytoy needs to update their flight stands, strengthen their support and replace the figure's fixation mechanism with something more durable. But we'll talk about this another time. The thing is that the figure looks good in flight, and this is where we can move to the comparison. Shadowsun is pretty massive for her species, but of course this is the merits of the armor suit. This is what the 18-scale skeleton from Boss Fight Studio looks like from a recent review. Sister of Battle, 2nd generation Primaris, Necron Deathmark, Orc Commando. I almost forgot about Thermogaunt, so that there would be comparison with all the current Joytoy Xenos. The Old Indomitus Terminator, Ahriman, Cataphracti. I must admit she looks decent against their background. She can easily knock on Terminators, and for example, here's the Primarch. Next to him she doesn't seem small, and this is a very cool achievement for a rather old figure. A small comparison with another stealth assassin who loves combination of white and orange. It's a pity that the scale is different. Well, in conclusion I want to tell a few things. Each new faction from Joytoy is an experiment, which we saw in the examples of Necrons, Tyranids, Orcs, and the Tau Warriors themselves are also quite unique in many ways. But Shadowsun is truly the most atypical figure from Joytoy ever. She has an incredibly cool paint job by their standards, and incredibly unusual joints from dreadnoughts, a lot of articulation points, I would even say more than necessary, which in the end can lead to problems with balance and posing. But it certainly looks beautiful, fresh and unusual within the framework of Warhammer. And it even seems to have something from Star Wars, so the figure definitely has its own charm. But I don't think that everyone will like it without exception. This concludes the review. I want to remind you about the importance of your likes, comments and subscriptions. Thanks for watching, have a nice day. And to all the fans of the Tau, the greater good.